All right, so we're looking at the track map. Obviously, Utah Motorsports Outer Loop. In looking at this track map, the first thing we're going to notice is that there are 15 corners. One of them has an A and a B section, 6A, 6B. We'll be going through this more as a optimal line tutorial before we get into the deep drive of us driving the track with data. So think of this tutorial more in phases where you've got a flying lap in the Boxster. Now we'll look at the track map from an aerial view, and I'll talk about some braking techniques as well as the line and which curbs you can and can't run over. And then we'll move into the in-car video footage and do a real exhaustive tutorial of every little nuance of this extremely fun and challenging track. First things first, approaching turn 1 is called Sunset. It's a late apex corner, however there is banking. There is a curb on the inside here, which you can run over with your left tires without upsetting the car too badly. I like to run over them a lot in the Boxster because it's a more compliant car. In a stiffer, more racy car, you might have a little bit more upset here. So experiment with that, but keep in mind this is a fairly long corner, and if you run over the curb with your left wheels, you cut the distance pretty significantly. And if you can handle it, it will allow you to reduce your lap time through this sector. As you exit turn 1, you will encounter, I call them candy stripes, but they're basically rumble strips or track out, curbs, gators. I'll call them candy stripes just because it's more fun to say for now. You can run all over those with your right outside tires. It's fairly wide. It doesn't upset the car very much, so I highly suggest tracking all the way out on the exit of turn 1. You quickly have to move your way back over to the left, driver's left. And the braking technique here in a fast car is a real light brush of the brake pedal before you turn into turn 2. That's why I've indicated a yellow soft braking, because we're going to be just slowing the car slightly, getting off the brakes as we start to turn in real smoothly, because this corner carries around 80 miles per hour. It's a very fast corner. You want to also not run over the rumble strips here because that can upset your car. If in the braking zone, you want to get right next to them. Now, as you turn in to turn 2, you'll be carrying a lot of speed. You want to track all the way out on the exit, and there is a set of candy stripes here, 2 levels of them. You won't actually run over these on the exit. You will get close to them, but because you have to get over so quickly back to the right for turn 3, you really can't afford to track all the way out on turn 2. It also is a fairly abrasive surface, which can definitely upset your car. And some people do go off the track on the exit of turn 2 Dreamboat. Now you move your way back over for turn 3. Another area where if you're in a fast car, you're going to want to brush the brake pedal before the turn. That's key. You're not turning here. You're just setting your speed. You're keeping the car nice and flat and balanced, getting the proper speed for the turn in on turn 3. This is probably one of the most important, if not the most important corners on the track, called Workout Turn 3. It's a very high speed corner, around 80 to 85 miles per hour. In a street car, probably 70 to 75. In a spec Boxster, we're going in around 82, 83 minimum speed. And you want to make sure that you get a good early rotation on the entry to this corner so we can get to full throttle as quickly as possible. You will kiss the curb on the inside of turn 3. And on the exit, this is where you've got more candy stripes out here. You do definitely want to run over these because it allows you to use the maximum width of the track, which reduces the radius of the corner, allows you to get to full throttle sooner and carry that speed all the way down past turn 4, which is not really a turn. You're turning the wheel, but it's full throttle in any car and it's not scary. So basically just straighten out that corner. You can slightly run over the inside rumble strip a bit, and you can track all the way out to the rumble strip on the right. Now you're going full throttle, obviously, all the way down this straightaway, which is a bit longer than it looks. You'll be carrying anywhere from 110 to 130 miles per hour probably at the end of the straightaway for Black Rock hairpin. Black Rock is a very unusual corner in that it opens up significantly on the exit, and it, to some people, appears like there's another apex on this corner right here, but it's not. You completely ignore where that green little arrow is. You really want to come into the corner with a late apex, start out wide, turn in, and then there's a curb on the inside of this corner right here. If you're in a car that's compliant, you can run all over that curb. I use it extensively to cut the distance of this corner because it doesn't upset the Spec Boxster very much. And then you can get to full throttle about right here on the exit, and you'll track all the way out right here. That's key. You're getting to full throttle, you're tracking all the way out on the exit of Black Rock, and you're riding that outside curbing to maximize your exit speed. This corner is relatively slow on the entry. It's in the low 50 mile per hour range in most cars, but on the exit, you can really get to throttle quickly because it opens up. Now, you need to jump back over to the left. I like to get about 3/4 of the way over, not all the way over because there's some gravel and tire debris basically out too far to the left. And I also feel like the track has less traction on the left, far left. So this corner is going to be a threshold braking zone, meaning you will use maximum brake pressure. You don't brake for too long though, because you're not going all that fast on the entry. You will use a lot of trail braking on this corner. I treat it as a single apex, not a double. This line looks like I'm hitting an apex right here, but the GPS isn't quite accurate. I'm actually a little bit further out to the left on my entry than it looks like on this picture. And then I'm really trying to get a late apex to get my car oriented that direction so I can get to full throttle soon and track all the way out. So I treat it like a late apex corner with 6B being my apex, ignoring the apex on 6A. It's a false apex. Getting a lot of rotation on the turn in towards 6B, and then maximizing my exit speed, full throttle, track all the way out. There are 2 levels of candy strips on the exit. You can run over one of them very easily, the first set. The second one gets very bumpy, and it can cause some concern. So try to hit the first one, but probably not the second. Now, moving on, this is the most important corner on this track configuration. If you're in a really fast car approaching Witchcraft, you will brush the brakes. In our GT4 Clubsport, I'm probably trying to set my speed around 105 on the entry to Witchcraft. It's fast. In a Spec Boxster, we're full throttle all the way through, and there's a slight lift before the turn in, but not brakes. That's why I say no brakes in slow cars. That's like a Miata, Spec Boxster, etc. In a super fast car, though, I like to brush the brake before the corner, get the car settled flat, and carry as much speed as humanly possible through this awesome fast corner. You do want to get down on the curbing and kiss the curbs, but not run over it, because you really need your car to be completely settled through this 100 mile per hour corner. It's an excellent corner to make up some time, because a lot of people overslow drastically for Witchcraft. Now, as you exit Witchcraft, you can't get all the way over here to track out like you normally would, because you have to hustle back over to approach the Attitudes. And the Attitudes, you won't, if you try to get back all the way over to the far right-hand side, driver's right, before the first Attitude, it'll cost you on Witchcraft because you'll have to sacrifice your exit speed. I would recommend prioritizing Witchcraft. Track out as much as you need to on the exit of Witchcraft, and then move back over about 3/4 of the way before the first attitude. And then you're going to do some medium braking here. It's hard, but it's a short braking zone. You're going uphill, so the car slows down really well, and you pick up traction as you continue going up the hill before the first turn. Now, approaching attitude, massive wide curbing on attitude 1. You can run all over that thing. It's like 8 or 10 feet wide. You can cut so much distance if you use it. And I'll show you in the videos how much you can actually run over that curbing. And then if you do that, you're set up really well for the second attitude because you've stayed to the left. And then you can really make this a fairly straight line because you can run over the curb in attitude 2, which is also about 10 feet wide. I like to run over maybe half of the car on the second attitude, so only 2 wheels run over it. Otherwise, if all 4 of your wheels run over the curbing, it does have quite a big bounce there, and you can definitely spin out. So the right side wheels can hit this curbing fairly comfortably, and you'll see in the videos how that works in both cars, Boxster as well as a faster car, the GT4 Clubsport. Now we're moving on to the next attitude, the last one, bad attitude, number 10. I like to run over the inside curbing on this. Probably it's about 3 feet wide. It's pretty smooth, and it's not too abrasive. It's not too steep of a ramp. So if you're in a compliant car like a Boxster or something soft with the soft springs, you can use the inside curb to your advantage. If you're in a stiffer car that gets upset by curbs, just kiss the inside curbing, but get down really, really close, within an inch of it, but you don't have to necessarily run over it. Now, of course, on the exit of bad attitude, track all the way out, there are candy stripes there. I like to run over both sets of candy stripes, and you will hear this chatter, bump, 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 but that's perfectly okay. And then you have plenty of time, full throttle here, to set up for Tuella turn. It's a medium braking zone, a short braking zone. You'll be going about 100 miles per hour or so, and you'll be slowing the car down somewhere to the low to mid 70 mile per hour range, maybe high 60s if you're in a street car on street tires. The key with this is this has a really big curbing system, and it's wide. If you get on the curb early on the entry, it's smooth and you can roll over it. If you do a late apex and then hit this curb, approaching at a slightly different angle, if you kind of come in and approach it like that, it can upset your car. So it's kind of a all or nothing deal, where if you turn in a little earlier than normal, run over the entirety of the curb, you can save yourself probably 20 feet of distance through this entire corner and still carry a very high speed through it. I'll show you in my videos. If you'd rather miss hitting the curb altogether, you can then take a slightly later apex and just kiss that curb, but don't actually run over it. And for beginners or even intermediates, I would recommend avoiding that curb initially. And if you want to experiment, try it at a slower speed, maybe on an out lap or your in lap, where you can feel what happens to your car when you run over it. The exit of Tuella turn is definitely a full track out situation with candy stripes. There are, I believe, 3 different tiers of them. The first, then the second, then the third. I run over at least the first 2 tiers every single time I exit this corner. Sometimes if I've exited really super fast and I get pushed out, I can run over level 3, which is very, very bumpy, but your car can handle it. I'd recommend starting with tracking out to level 1, see how that feels. Get on throttle a little bit sooner on the exit next time around. Try to track out to level 2. And if you're in a race and you know, experiment, you can use the entirety of the track. And if you don't, you will not be able to get to throttle soon enough, and you will sacrifice at least 1/10 of a second if you don't track out all the way on this corner. It's vital. Now your full throttle turn 12, just completely ignore that. Is not a corner. It's a flat out straightaway full throttle. As we approach Clubhouse, we're going pretty quick here. We're going to do threshold braking, meaning we're not quite kicking in ABS. We're right below ABS, but we're maximizing our slowdown with a very firm brake pressure, and then we're trailing off the brakes as we turn in. This corner is fast. It's fun. You're going 70 miles per hour plus through Clubhouse. It has good banking to your advantage, so I like to get in a little early on this one and use that banking. And don't hit the curbing too much. It's a bit abrupt, but kiss the curb. And the cool part about this corner is there is a ton of room out here. It almost is like a big rectangle. The track limits, as you look at the map, appear to end, but they really don't. And I'm actually, the GPS isn't lined up quite right. I'm tracking out all the way out here and then coming back in, meaning I can carry a lot more speed on the exit than people who don't go past the rumble strips and use this track extension. And basically it is paved, it's smooth, there's a lot of traction. I just completely ignore the rumble strips here and just run over them entirely, and my whole car almost goes outside of those on the exit, which allows you to carry an extra 3 or 4 or 5 miles per hour. You will gain on people entering wind up so fast if you do that. I'll show you in the video. Now, wind up is a very slow 50 mile per hour corner. You can't do much about it. Some people move all the way over to the left, like here, before they turn in. That's a waste of space. You don't have to spend so much time moving all the way to the left when you're talking about a 50 mile per hour corner. No matter how you go through this thing, it's going to be slow. So I just like to ride the inside rail around it. And sometimes I even get 2 wheels on the curb all the way around, where everyone else is kind of hanging out way out wide. And then as you exit this corner, you can give a small burst of full throttle here. And then you do a late apex for the final corner because you want to accentuate your exit speed, because this straightaway is 3/4 of a mile long, one of the longest in the country. And I like to tap my brake right as I'm turning the steering wheel, which allows a lot of quick rotation of the car toward the apex. And I also would like to suggest you stay inside, because this has a lot of banking and you pick up traction. A lot of people kind of over exaggerate a super late apex on this corner, and they're off in the flat part of the track where there's a lot of banking down near the curbing, because this track was designed for motorcycles as well. So I use that. I ride the inside, and then I can still get a fast exit. And then tracking out, there are 2 or 3 levels of candy stripes on the exit. Most people avoid them. I don't understand why. Don't be one of those people. Exit, get to throttle as soon as you can. Let the car be pushed all the way out, at least to the first level of candy stripes. Run over it. Enjoy it. It will not upset your car. You can go to the next one as well. I do that all the time, and it allows you to get to throttle probably almost a half a second sooner than if you don't use the whole track. So that's one of my biggest pieces of advice. And then you can ride this magic straightaway all the way down to Sunset, where you have almost the top speed of your car, and you're going to do a threshold braking to set up for turn 1. All right, now let's get into the real video deep drive tour.